Hello. I think I'm done writing this. Find out. thought I just broke everything there. Boom. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Popcast. Whenever you're listening to this, whether it be live or a VOD, Twitch or YouTube, or Spotify. While you are celebrating Fry finally winning her first and likely final Splatfest, suggesting somebody who just got purged out of +3, forgetting to end your stream because you are heating up corn dogs, whatever it is that you're doing right now, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to this. Unless I don't. Ugh. It's the first episode of the new year, so welcome in. Thank you for continuing another new year of whatever the hell this thing is. Took a pretty lengthy break from everything for the past couple of weeks. Did a episode a couple of Fridays ago to end off the year, and didn't do an episode last week. It was nice. I'm not saying that I didn't miss you idiots, but it is nice to be back doing this. And it was also nice not to be doing this. Of course, there was not really a whole lot to talk about the last couple of weeks anyways, except for the random mom and pop tournaments here and there. But the Christmas season is over. If you're still filled with that holiday joy, it's gone. And you can't get it back. You're going to have to wait till December of this year before you can get anything remotely close to that Christmas feeling. Until then, you're just going to have to suffer through the horrible year that we have upcoming, and you're starting it off right here. So I appreciate that. News of tournaments that may be of interest to the casual listener of the podcast. SAC, this Splatoon Advanced circuit, not the amateur circuit, because you guys are too much of a babies to be calling yourselves amateurs, even though we're all amateurs. Except for like Red Sun, I guess. Is that how that works? Is this upcoming weekend? It's going to be Saturday. There was a podcast right before this. If you are part of the raid that just came in through IPL, you were listening to that podcast. So there's doing some more stuff to help build up hype for this tournament. It's not just going to be a thing where just bald-headed 32-year-old men are going to be talking about. No, the actual IPL-sponsored podcast is going to be talking about this tournament throughout the course of the series. So make sure you play in it and then listen to what people have to say about you. I'm sure they're going to say nice things, unless they don't. But make sure you sign up for that. Who's eligible for SAC? I have absolutely no idea. I guess I don't think it's just the Plus servers that are being used in that anymore. I think it's more so common sense as to who should and shouldn't be allowed into this thing. If you just go off of Plus servers, then, well, about 50 teams just became eligible as of yesterday with how the Plus server thing ran around with that. But make sure you sign up for it anyways. Or don't. I don't care. Doesn't bother me any. Today we are going to be recapping Little Squid League number 26. One of the 200 or so tournaments that took place on Saturday. Also, well, all that. Yes, a lot of events took place on Saturday. We'll at least mention them all a little bit. I don't have time to talk about all of them. Just Little Squid League because, well, we like Little Squid League around here. But first, there's nothing really newsworthy about the recent purge that took place in the Plus server. More specifically, that took place in +3 as of, well, I guess Sunday morning when everybody woke up to find out, oh, I am no longer in the Plus servers anymore. Okay, look, it's fair to do a little check-in every now and then onto the Plus servers here, right? Because we've talked about the Plus servers here on the Popcast literally since before I had this nice fancy overlay that I had now, back when it was just that crappy one I made. We've been talking about the Plus servers for a long time. I'm not going to sit here and talk about every single time the voting comes out, because it's not really, in the grand scheme of things, it's not really that big of a deal. But it's fair to do a little check-in, an annual check-in, and since I don't want to sit here and spend an hour talking about Megalodon Cup Rainmaker, let's spend some time to talk about the Plus servers yet again, because once again it is in the eyes of anybody who's stupid enough to pay attention to things on Twitter. Now, before anybody says anything, if you know anything about sales, which I did a little bit of sales before I ended up to where I am right now, and I was horrible at selling things, but there is some things about sales that I learned. It's called covering your objections. Before somebody says, well, I can't buy your pen that you're trying to sell me because of blah, 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 you'd be like, no, actually, here is why that objection you have doesn't make any sense. Get it out ahead of it. So before anybody were to say something like, but Popgun, you're not in the Plus server, you shouldn't be allowed to talk about it, your opinions are invalid, guess what? You're right. I'm not in the Plus servers. I'm not even in there as like a general role-less freak. I've never wanted to be a part of the Plus server and never will. I have been offered to be suggested before, back when I was actively playing, and I said, thanks, but no thanks. That is not something I want to be a part of. For many reasons. But I will be upfront about that. Yes, I am going to be talking about the Plus servers without actually being involved in it. You can't just sit here and gatekeep my opinions just because I'm not directly involved in it. Because there are some things that anybody, regardless of your connection to the Plus server or not, can look up and understand just by looking at specific facts. And you can draw your own conclusions based off of those facts. So what are some facts that I'm talking about here? First off, taking a look at the voting system itself. Because each month, the people that are already in one of the Plus servers gets to vote on new members that are being suggested in, and everybody else as well. So it's kind of like a episode of Survivor and going up in a tribal council. I want to vote this person off the island, or I want to make sure this person still stays on the island with me, and here's who I want to bring in. So there's a little bit of a democracy going on here with these voting systems. It's just cool in theory if it were to work out the way everyone would hope that it would work out. Let's take a look at Plus 3. Because in the most recent ballot, there were 238 players who were eligible to be voted on in the last Plus 3 voting cycle. 238 players. Now, as I was talking about with Ludi, if you were just to spend a handful of time looking at all the teams that sign up for Ludi, you get to spend maybe about 5 minutes looking at them, and then that's your entire week, and you can't accurately see teams based off of that amount of time. So how do you vote accurately on 238 individual players and treat the process with exact with the right amount of respect that you're kind of looking for with a process like this? So let's just do, again, just common sense here. If you were to spend one singular minute looking at each individual player, if you were to look at the resume of one player, you know how they say like recruiters will only look at your work resume for like average of 10 seconds before they throw it out. I think that's a load of nonsense, but if you were to give it that kind of approach, here's all the results you got this week. I'm going to spend 1 minute looking at it and analyzing it. To do that for every single player, that takes you a grand total of 4 hours. All the people voting need to spend 4 hours of their individual time just to look at each person for 1 solid minute. That's it. If you were to be a little bit more fair to the process, spend 5 minutes looking at each one. What? That's 40 hours. Or no, that's 20 hours. You got to spend. Are you telling me that anybody's going to spend at least 5 minutes or even 1 minute looking at everything? You think somebody's going to spend 4 hours looking over their entire ballot? Hell, most people who vote for senators and the president. Don't spend more time than that. Don't spend anywhere close to that amount of time. They'll get to the voting booth and they'll see, oh, I'm going to vote for this one person. And then there's like 50 other people you can vote for. And you're like, this person's in my party. I guess I'll just vote for them. You just kind of BS your way through that. And it doesn't take much of a stretching of imagination to assume with 238 players, there's some BSing voting going on here. Now, I was under the assumption that the +2, +1, -1, -2 system was still in play. I double checked with my sources, aka Hiya, and it is now +1, -1 for everybody, regardless of what your region is. But if you were to spend those true 4 hours looking at everybody for at least 1 minute and coming up to an accurate decision, I am +1ing this person, I'm -1ing that person. You did it the right way. Unfortunately, like any good democracy, your hard work was completely erased by some jackass who just goes through and downvotes everybody -1 because it's a purge month. Let's see who survives, who doesn't. And the other person who just I'm so wholesome and I want to appreciate everybody, so everybody gets a +1. And it's a lot faster to do that. It doesn't take 4 hours. It probably takes like 5 minutes to do that, to go through 238 players to do all that. So if you actually sat there and you did some calculated research on your thing, your opinion just got destroyed by somebody who did the exact opposite. That's how democracy works across the board. It's not a stunning result that you get there. But it proves the point that I'm getting at here. When it comes to the plus servers, how we look at the pyramid. Oh, +1 is at the top, +2 and +3. It all stacks up nice and evenly and balanced. That would be true if this was just about skill level. It's not about skill level though, is it? Because there's other things that work here when it comes into voting. Networking, which is what everything on this world is built around. Who do you know? What kind of friend groups are you in? Do you know the right kind of person who's going to campaign for you? What kind of personalities do the people have that you're actually voting on? Are you cool with them? Do you hate them? Do you think their tweets are cringe? You're going to downvote them because of that. What kind of cliques are you involved in? And all the other cliques that are like have their own set agendas. Hey, we are deciding that this is going to be a purge month. Everybody get on board, or else you might not make it out of the next purge yourself. And of course, there's just always the option of, I just don't like that person, so I'm just going to, -1. Yeah, they're really good at the game. Actually, they beat me, 3-0'd me in the tournament, and I'm still mad that they 3-0'd me, so I'm just going to -1 them. Just because of my personal bias against losing to them. No, they got carried. No, they only beat us because they used the meta. Well, they were supposed to use some sort of cringe weapon to beat us, as everybody knows. So it's not just about skill level, is it? The problem isn't that, but the problem isn't just how the system works. Because again, this isn't breaking news that I'm kind of sharing here with these general thoughts. That's how every voting system, since the first time the Greeks decided on democracy, that's just how those things work. It's understandable. But this problem isn't just how it works. Obviously, this is a private club that has the majority ruling the minority, just like anything else. The problem is that we're using this as an indicator of individual skill level in a game that is based around team play. Well, again, so be it. But if there was an indicator of true skill level, there would be more balance in how these plus servers are kind of built out from top to bottom, right? That would suggest that +3 being the lower div or the lower skill level from 2 to 1 would be the bigger div, because that's how all communities work. There are more players. That means the bottom is heavier, and the less skilled players are, well, they're in their own little group, but they're a smaller group at the top. And we see this, it doesn't have to be like a set percentage, right? It doesn't mean necessarily that +3 is always required to be like 25 or 10% bigger than plus two. Like there's no exact structure, or if plus two has 80 players, then plus three automatically has to fit in 120 players in what they're trying to do, regardless of if there's 120 players that fit that criteria or not. There's none of that going on here. And we can find this in modern day in how Hall of Fames do their voting. In the NFL, the Pro Football Hall of Fame, they let in 6 people every single year. Exactly 6 people. Whether there are 6 people deserving of the Hall of Fame or not, they're going to find 6 people to put in. Baseball, they could put in, I don't think there is a limit to how many people baseball could put in per year, but they could put in 0 people if they wanted to. It's just a matter of, do you get the certain percentage of votes? I think you need like 70% from sports writers to get in, and if you get it, you're in, and if you don't, then you're not. So there's no like set requirement for baseball, and that's kind of the way it needs to go, in my opinion. The people who deserve it get in, and there's not like a quota that needs to be met. So that's kind of what's going on here. I guess if you want to compare the plus servers to professional baseball, I guess there's some good and bad that go along with that. And low ink has kind of been a good example of this as well. The pyramid structure, if you think about it, because more teams are signing up for low ink than ever before. We had a tournament with 170 teams in it. But the more teams that signed up for low ink made it a lot easier for the alpha bracket blue bloods to advance out of Saturday unscathed. Because there's more teams signing up doesn't mean there's more teams with that right kind of skill level that you see at the top that are playing all the way through to the event. Instead, you're seeing more teams signing up that are filling out the bottom, that are just more fodder to those teams that are in those alpha bracket capabilities of trying to win the entire tournament. So when it comes to round 4 and 5, when you're playing against teams that are also undefeated like you are, oh, you're undefeated because you've been playing a bunch of babies, whereas you're still kind of a baby yourself. So we've been seeing that as being an example in low ink, how the fact that just because the community is getting bigger doesn't mean everything grows out evenly. But even with that all being said, you would still not think that at any point, plus 2 would be bigger than plus 3. But due to the recent purge of 137 people failing to get the votes needed to get into plus 3, plus 2 is officially bigger. There are 106 people in the plus 2, then there's only 101 people in plus 3. What? What? How does that make any sense? That indicates... Now, look, that's fine. Again, it's a private club. Whoever gets in is whoever the majority decides to gets in. But we got to stop using these plus servers as an accurate depiction of what skill level is, because there shouldn't be more people in plus 2 than there are in plus 3 if this truly is about skill level. That throws that theory completely out the window. The pyramid K-Bot comes up with is disproportional. It doesn't work. It's going to fall over. It's not really a pyramid. This is more like jank Doritos stacked on top of each other. If the middle is thinner than the top in some points there. So how did this happen? How did we get 137 people failing to get voted into plus 3? Well, because it's a purge month. That's right. About 3 or maybe 4 times a year, for whatever reason, the people in the plus 3 section are either noticing a lot of people are not being active enough, or feel like I'm not going to be playing in the plus 3 server because these people are not at the same skill level as me. So the fat gets cut out and a lot of people get erased from the plus 3 server. And every time this happens is when you start seeing people start to tweet complaining about the server as a whole. Why are we even making this out to be a big deal? Who cares if we go out who cares if you're in the plus server or not? I'll make my own plus server with whatever. And what you see is those same exact people get back into the plus 3 server next week or next month or because they already know one person that's in the plus server, they'll just start doing scrims with that one person again. Because let's be honest, if you know somebody in the plus servers, you can just do scrims with them. I have never even joined the plus server. I've done several +3 scrims. None of them have been good. They've always been against somebody who's not VCing, or, oh, we got to do zones only because this is what Japan does, or we're just going to use silly comps for 3 games and not really take everything seriously. Now, some of you have done a lot more plus server scrims than I have, but the small sample size I've done, while not even being a part of the plus servers, made me realize, oh, this is stupid. This isn't all what I was looking for. But all the people who get purged out, they just get right back in. And the cycle repeats itself. Oh, there's too many people here. Let's cut them all out. Oh, wait, no, we didn't mean to cut that person out. I'm just going to suggest them or vouch them right back in. Hey, everybody's back in. 5 months later. There's too many people here. Purge, rinse and repeat. It's ridiculous is what it is. But why do we even care? I guess is the point that I'm trying to get at here. What I don't get is people who feel like the plus servers are required if you want to get good practice. First off, like I said, if you know somebody that's in the plus server, you can go ahead and piggyback off of them and do scrims that you're looking for anyways, whatever value you get out of that. But second off, there are ways around finding good practice outside of pickup servers that people are voted into. It's called scrim groups. Pickup groups exist. If you're part of a team, you probably have created your own little inner circle of teams that you like to scrim with repeatedly anyways. And if you haven't done that yet, that's something you should definitely hop on the train of starting to do. They don't have the title of being, oh, this is an illustrious +3 scrim or something like that, but it doesn't mean anything. There's no... When you play a tournament and you go up against a team full of +3 players, believe it or not, they don't start off the game with a 5-point advantage. The game on the Switch could care less whatever arbitrary, factual, opinionated server that you're voted into. It's still 0-0 with 5 minutes left to go. None of that really matters. However, I do want to point out a few tweets, or I guess one in particular that I saw that were kind of interesting. It made me think about things maybe in a way I haven't really thought about in a while. This one comes from Pika of Cherry Limeade, Pika Dave 456. Quote, Plus has always been meant for individuals and pickups, so it's no surprise voting does not favor people who only play for their teams or make their team their identity. Teams networking with each other for practice instead of relying on Plus is the best way forward, in my opinion, end quote. And yeah, that's kind of how you should be going about things. It's about finding other people that are going to push you to get better. And it doesn't have to specifically be in the plus server. And you know what's so frustrating about all this is that if you grew up in low ink at any period, I don't care if you're a low ink player that is now in DivX, which we have several low ink alumni players in DivX and in +1, or you're somebody starting off in low ink right now. What was the purpose of low ink? Was it so you could win a tournament that's skill capped, or was it so you could find other people around your skill level so that you could start developing your own little inner circle of teams that you could scrim and grow with? That's what we've been teaching you idiots for the past 4 years or so that we've been doing low ink. This isn't a new concept. You should be finding new ways to network on your own. You got to be a little bit less reliant on other servers and find ways to make the connection yourself. That's what the purpose of low ink is. So it's not really a new concept, and Pika's tweet kind of made me remember that. It's like, oh, right. There are teams that actually play this game, and Pika makes a great point. If you look at teams that actually exist right now, all their players, even though all the results they get are the same exact, they're not in the same thing. You got some players on one team that's in +2 or in +3, and there are other players not even in the plus server at all, but they all got the same exact results. But each one's individualized and has certain friends and connections to this thing. So that's what helps them climb the ladder a little bit faster, even though everybody on that team has got the same wins. I don't know. These are concepts we've been trying to teach you morons for a long time through Lowing. But there's also an auto fix to all of this, right? And I'm not sitting here saying the plus servers are bad by any stretch of the imagination, but just more so the prestige that we give the plus servers is what the issue is. But there is a fix to this. If you recall, there was a time where all the plus servers were put on pause, where they were dead, and nobody cared about them. Even if you're in the plus server or not, nobody really cared about the plus servers at all. The entire community was melding together, and everybody was playing together regardless of your skill level, and it was the golden age of competitive Splatoon. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Do you guys remember this? The answer is the beta testing of SendOutQ. This is the same person who created the plus servers. No, not Riptide. Good guess, I guess. But no, we're talking about SendOutQ. And now, I'll explain SendOutQ in case you're somebody who joined the community recently. You have no idea what I'm talking about. Also, I know my dad listens to the Popcast every now and then, so I'll take a little bit of time to explain this. So SendOutQ was, you go onto the website, you got your own kind of profile made up, and you look for other people that are online. You auto connect and form a team of 4, and then you go up against an opponent. You don't know who your opponent is, but you know what roughly their skill power is, and you get locked into a best of 7 match that was basically a tournament set where automatic results are on the line. You win, you get points. You lose points, and then you join the system back all over again. You could do it as a pickup. You could do it with your whole team, and you could do basically tournament sets at any time of the day that you wanted to. It was awesome. And again, people of all kinds of skill levels were playing with each other. I praised top level players because they weren't, for the most part, sticking to their own little cliques. They were grabbing low level players and saying, hey, let's play a little match together. Let's do some. I remember there was one point I was in a lobby with Chara and Ant playing against Keo and several other people of the FT Win kind of thing. And I'm just sitting here in this lobby like, what the hell am I doing here? I don't know. I'm just going to rev up my Hydra and see if we can kill anybody, though. Let's just see what happens. That was so cool. And SendOutQ went away because it was in the beta testing and other things need to be worked out. Do have another tweet that I want to mention to you guys about that specifically. Sindow tweeted out, quote, when finalizing the team feature, been thinking about how to change SendOutQ when bringing it back. Removing unranked lead modes, looking for games, 2 queues, open and skill capped, low ink eligibility only or whatever with different ranks, not open 24/7, only on some weekends, solo and team leaderboard, end quote. So, hey, there's a possibility that SendOutQ could come back. And if it were to come back, who cares about plus server? Oh, I can't get a plus server scrim going. I can't do, there's not enough people online or nobody's in VC. No, you just pick anybody, regardless of what kind of fake div +3-2 number they got next to their name. You just play with anybody, against anybody, play a set, and if you don't like them, they're gone. You can just do it all over again. The SendOutQ thing would completely erase all the nonsense that everybody doesn't like about the plus servers. But let me say this, though, and remember this. While the plus servers are not the end-all, be-all of competitive Splatoon, they're also not completely horrible or need to be burned down to the ground or anything like that. There's nothing inherently negative about the concept of the plus servers themselves. It's the prestige that we give it. It's the fact that having a goal of getting into the plus server isn't really that bad of a thing. I think that's a fair goal to have. Making that your main goal, your whole identity, being like, oh, I got into the plus server, that means I arrived. I think that's the problem inherently. As Shaq has said before, if +1 were to just go away, if you were just to get rid of +1, it's just going to come back. If +1 was always just a private thing, And even if you get rid of it, it's just going to come back as another private thing. Players want to play with people around their skill level. It's understandable. These are not foreign concepts we're coming up with. Just remember, it's all mostly just opinion, though. Results are fact. Nobody can take a tournament win away from you. Set wins away from you. If you won something, you earned it. For the most part, unless you got the DC or something like that. They can interpret it however they want, though. People can interpret your wins, your success, however they want. They can say things like, oh, this person got carried. Oh, it's a support player. They'd be nothing without their other splash-o-matics. That doesn't really matter, though. At the end, people are going to try to discredit you your entire life, regardless of what you're trying to do, whether it's video game related or not. It doesn't mean it's true. So just shut up and play the game and try to impress whoever it is that you need to impress to get whatever. But just remember, you don't necessarily need the plus servers to get better at the video game. I think that's the biggest myth we have in this community. There's nothing wrong with the plus server. Before you guys start tweeting anything out, I'm not bashing on it. Again, it's not something for me, and if it's something for other people, that's great. But don't get locked into this mindset just because you got purged out of +3 that you're not going to be able to find a way to beat anybody in +2 the next tournament. Or find some other way that you can prove yourself. Let the game and results speak for yourself. And let the idiots interpret it however they want to interpret it. Synarchy was out for like 4 weeks. 3 to 4 weeks. Like a month-ish. It'd be cool if it came back. Alright, that's enough nonsense. There was a crap ton of tournaments that played this past weekend. So let's get to it. It is time for the weekly recap. SOS number 94. In case you're wondering what SOS stands for, it actually stands for Smoothie or Someone Else. Well, it turns out someone else was able to find a way to win SOS Last Resort, dominating their way through SOS, beating Smoothie in Grand Finals. Pinlow 3000 XP Fan Club taking third place in that one. Finally, we've been waiting for Last Resort to do something. And this definitely counts as something and is a step in the right direction for them. Hammerhead bracket was won by Campfire. Mako bracket was won by Opium. And Lantern bracket was won by Mr. Riz, a.k.a. me. The Shmeeb Party Wheel, the second annual Shmeeb Party Wheel, was played on Saturday. This was won by Prism, taking first place. Kappa took second. And I couldn't find who tweeted out that they got in third place. But if you're wondering what the Shmeeb Party Wheel thing is, go look at the VOD of it, and I'll just leave it at that. The one time that I tuned in, there was 3 X-Splosh and 1 Blob comp versus another triple X-Splosh, 1 Blob comp. And I got the picture of everything I needed out of that tournament. It is a little bit of a silly tournament, let's say that. Megalodon Cup, the Rainmaker edition, was played on Saturday as well, at the same time as the Shmeeb Party Wheel and like 50 other tournaments. It was won by Rapid. The second place team is a name that I'm pretty sure they just bashed their head on the keyboard about 5 times and just went with that. It is completely illegible, and Inked got third place. The team Rapid, who won the whole tournament, is made up of Squeeg and friends. Squeeg, Adept, and friends. Sorry, I'm not listing out every single member on that pickup. The number 1 seed in this 20-team tournament got eliminated in losers round 3. Inked, who got third place, got eliminated from winners bracket in round 1. A little bit of a silly tournament, as you expect to see out of anything Rainmaker related. Squid Junction number 35 took place on Saturday night. It was won by Hex, who was able to get revenge against Tempest, who I'm not sure if they completed their roster yet by that time. EWGF Ew Girlfriend, is that what that stands for? Got third place in this tournament. A lot of parity here from what we've seen out of Hex, Nightmare, Smoothie, and Tempest, and other teams of that ilk. There seems to be a lot of parity around this kind of whatever you consider that skill level to be. But this time here, Hex is able to get the better end of Tempest over all of them there. Not all of those teams played, obviously. Looney, week 3 finally came to an end. We think it took about 3 weeks to play this final week because of Christmas and whatnot, but we finally got some results out of this. Div 6, Hydra was able to beat Mystical Inc. 5-3, and Div 1, Nightmare beat Smoothie in a highly anticipated matchup, Nightmare winning 5-2 over Smoothie, and that might knock Smoothie out of the playoffs in that Div group because Nightmare already lost to the slow start team. We'll see how that one goes. Div 7, Splat-A-Lot Gambit got a 5-4 win over Project Zeta. Who is Project Zeta? I did some research in the rabbit hole. We'll talk about them in a second. Div 5, My Opsidus. Not your, but my Opsidus was able to get a 5-3 win over Alliance of the Dam. And in Div 1, Cherry Limeade got a 5-4 win, a very exciting 5-4 win over Yamam. Could that be an upcoming rivalry? I don't know. Cherry Limeade seems to be getting the better end of that team whenever they play. In the NFL, the final week of the regular season came to an end. The Steelers keep their winning season streak alive, going 28-14 over the Browns. The Rams went 16-9, ending the worst season from any team to win the Super Bowl the previous year against the Seahawks. The Chiefs got a 31-13 win over the Raiders, giving them the number 1 seed in the AFC. Somebody asked me, do you not like the Steelers? I'm indifferent to them, but I was rooting for them to have a winning season because their coach is now 16-0 in all-time winning seasons in the NFL. And I like cool stories like that. And that was your weekly recap. Sponsored by anyone who doesn't body shame their opponent after losing to them on Twitter. Just throwing that, yes, I understand Obito was provoked initially by saying, I beat you. But it turns out if you actually don't respond by body shaming your opponent, it works out into your advantage. And by responding by body shaming your opponent actually isn't the right play and does work against you. So anybody who hasn't body shamed their opponent, you are the official sponsor of today's episode of the Weekly Recap. My God. I tweeted out last week. I said it. I said, some of you just need to put your phone down after you lose a tournament. Some of you tweet some really cringe stuff after SOS, especially after low ink. It just put your phone down, wait like an hour, and then think if that thing you're going to tweet out is still good or is it something that you might end up deleting 5 minutes later after you get ratioed by the quote retweets. And ooh, come on, guys. Come on. Let's act like we graduated middle school sometimes. We got through this. Little Squid League number 26. Little Squid League number 26. What is that? Oh, do I have this thing like blocked out? Hold on. Where is it? That? No. Where the heck's my screen at? Is this even the right? I have no idea where my screen is. Display capture? That's got to be it. Oh gosh, this is gonna cancel. This is not gonna work. That is not gonna work. Am I sure I got that? Whatever. We don't need to be looking at that anyways. Little Squid League number 26. I'll just tell you guys what I'm looking at right here. But basically, the one thing I want to point out here about Little Squid League number 26 is that this was by far the biggest Little Squid League tournament of all time. And there's been 26 of them. I don't know if they actually count the invitationals, though. That might be like 30 is what they're at right now. The biggest Little Squid League up to this point, I believe, was the 47 they had last time. Yeah, so the 25th, the tournament back in November, which was, man, they didn't do one in December, was at that time the biggest Little Squid League of 47 teams. And they shattered their own record the next time they played their tournament, going up to 62. So there you go. I talked about this. I talked about how low ink in January is always monstrously big. And you're going to continue to see that here with Little Squid League. And now, are they going to continue this success going into February? I guess will be the question to see, but still, I'm happy that they finally broke through that glass ceiling of being stagnant with 20 to 30 to sometimes in the teens teams, and finally getting up to being this big tournament that you would expect them to be. In theory, Little Squid League should be bigger than Low Ink. Low Ink just has more market share than any tournament in the community right now, so it's understandable. But if you look at a tournament that truly caters even more to lower level, which is and casuals to some extent, Little Squid League does more than Low Ink just by what the tournament is about. The fact that its skill cap is a little bit lower, I guess way lower actually, and the fact that it's a one-day tournament. The few people that complain about Low Ink will say, I don't have time to be playing in a 2-day tournament. Okay, well, Little Squid League is a one-day tournament. This is exactly what you're looking for here. However, like every tournament that's going on right now, they got to make some adjustments. More so than what Low Ink has to make adjustments. When you have this many teams signed up, you can't really do what you've always done because things have to change somewhat. You have more... The reason I say Little Squid League has to make more adjustments than Low Ink is because even though Low Ink completely changed what we did in our day 2 format, we still have more time across 2 days to adjust things and tinker them to be as close to what we actually want it to be. With Little Squid League, the more teams you get, you still have to knock out that tournament in 1 day, and you still have to get everything done in about 5. You really don't want to go 6 hours with any tournament that you do, but 5 hours in general, you don't really want to go over that. So how do you do that with 62 teams and keep the same format that you've always had? If you can remember, Little Squid League's format has always been groups into single elim with the 4-team groups with the top 2 teams moving on to the groups to the top bracket and the bottom 2 teams moving on to the bottom bracket. When you have this many teams, though, I think initially what they were going to do was make the groups 5 teams instead of 4. But because less than 64 teams signed up, they ended up just making a whole heck of a lot of groups in the group stage of just 4 teams apiece. So they went with SOS kind of rules. Only the top team in each group moved on to the top bracket. The second, third, and fourth place teams moved on to their own second, third, and fourth place brackets. That's rough. That is rough. That basically a virtual single elim tournament the whole way through. Only one team was able to find a way to lose in the group stage and still advance to the gold bracket. Everybody else was required to go 3-0, or else they weren't even going to get a chance to win. That's rough. But then again, it's kind of the only solution when you think about it, because to do anything else would extend the length of time the tournament lasts, and the longer a tournament goes on a weekend, the less likely you're going to see an EU team find a way to get a win, and the more you're going to see people gripe and complain, why am I playing 6 hours on a tournament on a weekend or at any point of the day, when there's not any prize money on the line on top of that. So is this format going to be ideal for anyone? No! Especially in a tournament like this, where you have so much parity, So much parity is always in a little Squid League tournament. You always have a team that wins the tournament, especially as of late, as there have been a few curb stompy teams, which there's always is in tournaments like this. But the parity level in this tournament, you've always got a team that wins it that barely even makes it out of their own group stage and then has to struggle their way through the bracket and before barely winning the entire tournament. There's like 5 or 6 or 8 teams every little Squid League where it's just a coin flip for any one of them to escape and win the whole tournament. So just to have a virtual single elim like this format is, makes those margins of error even more dramatic and significant. But because the number of teams it is, you had to do this. You can't let the tournament go on much longer. It still doesn't take away from the parity. It just makes things more exciting if it's not more stressful for the players. Imagine you're playing at the very beginning of the tournament, very start of it, and you lose your first game, and you have to win the next 2 to win the set or else it's over. That's stressful. Your tournament run could be over in 15 minutes if you're looking to win this tournament. That's stressful. And then you got to wait a whole month before you get another shot at it. Fun to watch, though. I'm not going to go down and break down every single group like I normally do. Normally, I just go down group by group by group. There's way too many groups for me to do that. So here's 5 things that I noticed from the group stage that I wanted to bring up and talk about. Number 1, while there's just one group stage, there are 2 groups on the bracket. And I find that interesting from a TO perspective. I'm thinking that is because they made the initial group and then had to add one afterwards because of the amount of teams that they had, instead of just like a race net and creating one giant one. But I don't understand why there's not one giant one. But there are 2 separate groups of groups going on here. I wonder if there's actually any logic behind that. Number 2, Splat-A-Lot Biocide Breakers. That interesting little chemistry team from Splat-A-Lot made gold bracket by getting an L in this tournament. And in fact, they did not go 6-0, 3-0 in their group, and instead they were able to find a way to lose to the team that finished last in their group, I believe. Yes, they lost to the team who finished last place in their own group and was still able to find a way to win all the way through. Why? Because of tiebreaker rules. What tiebreaker rules specifically am I talking about? I have absolutely no idea. If I put more effort and the thought into it, I could probably figure it out. But group stage tiebreakers are, while they're spelled out, at the end of the day, just win your games and you move on. Now, if this was under a normal little Squid League, Crystal Coral, who also went 2-1 that group, would move on anyways. That's where a little bit tiebreakers come a little bit harder into play. But again, things are what they are. Number 3, Anemones and Sushi tied with each other. Like straight up tied. Their set, it was recorded as 0-0 and resulted in a tie. That is interesting. How can you tie in a best of 3? My theory is this. And this is something I've always thought about with other tournaments that we run, because everybody's pounding the table on Twitter saying, we need tournaments to be faster, 25 minutes cap, and to get through all the way through. Okay, what about those awkward scenarios where everybody can't get into the lobby and teams DC instantly at the start of the game, but it's not like one team that's DC, it's like both teams that are doing it, and then like you switch hosts and then you still have that issue, but like in reverse and something like that. Like it's not clear cut who's at fault for delaying the set, and neither team can play. That happened to my team in a Splat-A-Little tournament. We had to replay the map 6 times just to get the game in. And I've seen several other examples of that as well. So that would be my first guess as to how these teams tied, is that they couldn't do anything, and the TOs just said, we can't stall this entire tournament. We're giving you guys this auto tie, and we're just moving on, going forward with that. It's just that awkward Splatoon 3 moments that you see happen in this game. I mean, you had it in Splatoon 2, but it seems to be more common in Splatoon 3 At least with where the game is now. Maybe with more patches, it'll be more easy to indicate, like, oh, wait, you guys have crappy internet. You guys are taking the L here. We got to move on. Number 4. So there's no way. Cerility, I believe, is the team that got the biggest upset out of the group stage. They ended up winning their group, even though they were seeded to finish 3rd in their group, getting some upsets in Group F. Again, a group you guys cannot see, but a group that I can see right here. They were in a group with Glitter Gel Pins, one of the more wholesome teams of the year. Won a wholesome team of the year in the Popcast Awards last episode. Able to find a way to beat them and somebody else that was seated above them. I believe Tholium, able to steal their spot there. So technically, I think by the seed Cerility. Oh, reading is difficult. I believe technically gets the biggest upset. And the 5th and final thing from the group stage, and probably the biggest thing I've noticed so far, or the most notable thing from the group stage, is the team that won this whole tournament, Wave Breakers, got a 2-1 win over Squid Strikes. And why is that significant? Because Squid Strikes would go on to play in Silver Bracket and win Silver Bracket in dominant fashion, and Wave Breakers went on to win this entire tournament. But that's another example. I talk about parity. If that one of those games goes slightly different, the entire trajectory of this tournament is flipped on its head. All of a sudden, the team that won Silver Bracket might be the team that wins the whole tournament. And the team that ended up winning the whole tournament doesn't even get a shot to make it into Gold Bracket. So those best of 3s are harsh. But it creates those interesting little dynamics. So Wave Breakers and Squid Strikes, that could have been your secret actual grand finals match that was played in the group stage. We will take a look at each individual bracket, and let me just take a quick second to see if we can fix this and actually look at it. So why don't I have everything set up? Capture properties. Primary monitor? Yes. So we just had it on the wrong monitor. There we go. Easy fix. So everybody made their old bracket. You get your old emerald. Is emerald below bronze? Is that how that works? Is that really how it works? I must be. It must be 100% how that works. Why is my... Oh, because I'm clicking on the wrong thing. There we go. So we're going to be looking at emerald bracket to some extent. Hold on. There was a 4-way deadlock tie for first place during Swiss of, oh, it's dangerous to go alone. They had to do 3 tiebreaker games. 3 of them, all of which were streamed, was nuts. So Battlefy has a feature where for group stage, if the ties are so like deadlock, Battlefy will suggest you do a tiebreaker match of some sort. It's never happened to us with Flowink. I don't think it's happened in any SOS tournaments. I think it's happened one time in Little Squid League. I do remember them doing like a tiebreaker game of some sort, like a play-in for the top cut. That might not have been like a Battlefy thing. That might have just been like their own little personal thing. I can't remember. But there are some like jank, super straight tiebreaker rules you got to go through. But at the end of the day, as fun as tiebreaker rules are, they slow down the entire tournament for everybody. So it's not always fun. Emerald bracket. The only real things I have to say about this, because most of these teams are unknowns, except for Sushi. Sushi was one of the teams that got the tie, which is weird. When I first saw them tie, I thought, oh, they just both dropped at the same time. But Sushi kept playing after this 0-0 tie they got and did decently well in this bracket, going all the way to fourth place, losing to Non-Binary Fuzz, which is the team I want to talk about right here, because we've seen this team play in a lot of tournaments as of late, because their name always sticks out to me. And they're starting to get some decent wins in this little bracket right here, losing to the team that swept almost everybody except for Blonded. So I just want to give a shout out to Non-Binary Fuss. I always want to think of a joke for their name, but I can't come up with a good one that would actually work. Instead, let's talk about Neko Nyokto. Let's talk about this Neko team. Because who are these guys? These guys played in the low ink recently. They played in their first tournament ever, which was the most last low ink, and they went 2-4, which wasn't good enough to qualify for a bracket, but they dominated here after going 0-3 in this group. Or actually, was this one of the teams that got that went 2-1? I guess I can show you guys this now. No, that was Blonded. Blonded went 1-2, fell all the way down to Emerald bracket, which was the Neko's toughest opponent going 2-3 here in this group, and rightfully so. But still, congratulations to this Neko team winning this first and maybe only ever Emerald bracket. What kind of send-out badge icon do you get for that? I'm not sure. The bronze bracket went to Night Logic, which is a team I did not forget about, but haven't seen in a while. In fact, I think the last time we saw Night Logic play in anything was the June low ink, where they got second place in Gamma bracket. If anybody remembers who won Gamma bracket in June of last year, I'll tell you right now, it was Puzzles and Dragons. I wonder if Asa got a double-double in that shot and in that match as well. But Night Logic here had a grind all the way through here. Survived a game, thrive against Eternal Eclipsia, a game 7 against Arise to win this whole one. And Arise was the team that played in the last low ink and made beta bracket. So they did really well themselves, even though they fell down to this bracket they probably weren't feeling about, which is weird to think about comparing Little Squid League to low ink and all this stuff. It's like, okay, how could you be a beta bracket team but then fall down to this bronze bracket of Little Squid League that didn't even exist last time there was a Little Squid League? Well, when you fall down like that, you just beat up on people and prove you don't belong here and survive some scrappy games like they did against Yup and Pebble Squid before just losing to a tough, experienced team in Night Logic. But Arise able to get the job done there to some extent. It's just not fair to make all those comparisons between Low Ink and Little Squid League, because we've seen teams play better in Low Ink than they do in Little Squid League all the time. It's a different kind of animal when you're like, oh, this is a tournament I should be doing well in, versus, oh, this is a tournament I'm just playing in just to get better. Sometimes when you don't have that pressure on you, you play better. And that's why we sometimes see teams play a lot better in Little Squid League or in Low Ink than they do Little Squid League. Case in point. Oh, wait, no, that team's not here. Wait, no. Yeah, case in point. Oofish. Oofish way better when they don't play in Little Squid League than they do in Low Ink. Great Low Ink team. Silver bracket. And if this was a normal Little Squid League, all of these teams you're looking at would be playing for the entire tournament. This is your essential beta bracket of Low Ink now. These are all the teams that are like, oh, we really don't get a chance to win this one. Squid Strike's probably being the most annoyed of them all, the team that almost beat the team that won this whole tournament in the group stage. And my goodness, they took their frustration out on this. Ikaru 2-0, Crystal Coral 2-0, New Game Plus 3-0, and 4-1. They dropped one game to Pure Chaos. So Squid Strikes, I tried to look up who they were. I couldn't really find any information specifically. So I don't know if this is a pickup or what, and I don't know what to think of them going forward. But I would have liked to see these guys play in gold bracket. Because I feel like they're underseeded here, and they just got put into the wrong group against the wrong team. They took care of business against everybody they played against in this one. Yikes. The team they went up against, Pure Chaos, I did look at their roster. This roster is Pure Chaos. I think this is a new team full of just a bunch of people from all kinds of walks of life of things here, and they had no problem getting to this grand finals portion as well, which just shows again just how strong Squid Strikes was. Alliance Moon is the other team I want to talk about here. They got third place in this bracket, beating Tacta Rulers 3-2, but Alliance Moon is playing in their first Low Ink this upcoming Low Ink. I believe this is just like their second tournament that they've been playing in general, just off the little information I have. No, they played in some other random stuff here and there, but At least as a team as a whole, Alliance Mood's going to be playing in their first low ink coming up. So we'll see how good they do there. But Squid Strikes, this is a team. I don't know if there's any film of Squid Strikes playing on stream, but this is the mystery team of the whole tournament here. Because I want to know how good are they actually, and how close was that 2-1 set they had against Wave Breakers. Speaking of Wave Breakers, let's take a look at Gold Bracket here. Other teams I want to talk about before we get to Wave Breakers. The 6-star wanted level. What the heck does that even mean? A Dragon Ball reference? The team that ended up winning in third place in this event. This team played in low ink back in November, went 3-3. And if you recall, going 3-3 in a low ink back in November, where it was the top 32 Gamma and Delta brackets, wasn't good enough to give you a spot in any slot anywhere in Sunday. So 6-star wanted level did not make anything on. Again, that just shows little low ink not being anything. You got a team here getting third place in the entire tournament that didn't even make a bracket, and then another team that made beta bracket that can't even win bronze bracket here. Like, you can't make the same kind of connection. It's a completely different atmosphere. But 6-star wanted level getting third place in this little squid league is great for them. Benthic Brigade had a heck of a run all the way through here, and had a very stressful run as well. The team that went 2-1 rightfully placed here as the number 16 seed, almost knocked them out early, had to survive a game 5 against Cool Pro Fortnite Gamers. Who is that? Is that Ninja? 3-0 6-star wanted level, and then giving Wave Break everything that they could handle in that grand final set. Who is Benthic Brigade? They are a Div 6 team. I believe they're currently 1-1 right now. So this is Div 6 right where you're looking at. Of course, they had to go up against a team that is Div 7 right now in Wave Break. Now, who is Wave Break? Aside the fact from a team that had to barely escape getting out of their own group stage, had to escape Spirit Inc. as the number 15 seed, had to escape on stream Royal Succulents 3-2 before going all the way to a game 6 and a best of 7 against Benthic Brigade. Wave Break could not be defeated on this day. Wow, they could not be defeated on this day. And who is Wave Break, though? That was the question I was going at. Who are these guys? So here's the rabbit hole you got to go down to figure out who Wave Break is. First off, they used to be known as Project Zeta, and then there's something with their logo they said was like might have been confused for something else, so they didn't want to like that name anymore, so they changed themselves to Wave Break. But before they were Project Zeta, who is playing in Ludi as Project Zeta, before they were that, it was Splat-A-Lot Dark Matter. Not to be confused, mind you, with Splat-A-Lot Drippy Drippers. So this is a completely different team. Then this Splat-A-Lot Dark Matter team was playing in the June Little Squid League where they made silver bracket. So there you go. It's Splat-A-Lot Dark Matter that turned into Project Zeta that turned into Wave Breakers. Oh my gosh. So I have found that out because they got a Twitter. It's helpful that you got a team Twitter that explains your tournament, your team history and the lore behind all of that stuff. But if you didn't know that, you would just say, who the heck is Wave Breakers? Oh, they're playing in Ludi under a different name, and they used to be part of the Splat-A-Lot group. So there you go. Wave Breakers ended up winning this whole tournament in dramatic fashion. It wasn't easy for them. They had an anchor player who could flex between Splatlings and Chargers. They had a roller player who could flex between Flings and Carbon. Insert Shooter, Slayer, inserts, I believe, a Junior Slayer. And not Junior Slayer, but a Junior Weapon as well. So Wave Break kind of doing things that make sense, not going too crazy, not doing anything too cute or anything like that. Just find what works with them and find ways to survive and get some scrappy wins. And a lot of scrappy wins along the way. And this is what I'm talking about with the parody of Little Squid League. Benthic Brigade obviously could have won. Cool Bro Fortnite They only lost, this might have been the only 2 games they lost in the entire tournament. Hook, line, and sinker. Man, these guys are always flirting with winning this right here. Look how many of these matches went to a decisive game. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 of these, 16 matches went to a decisive game 3 or game 5. Any of those teams could have won this bracket. And any of the teams in the silver bracket could have won this whole tournament as well. That's what makes Little Squid League so exciting. And hopefully it gets bigger. Now, how's it going to change going forward, getting bigger? I think they said they just make the groups bigger and go through with that. But, man, I'm glad I'm banned from Little Squid League because that is a tough tournament to win. And, again, you screw up once, got to wait a whole month before you get another chance. But hats off to Wavebreak / Project Zeta, who is currently Div 7, I believe, and is still playing as Project Zeta. They got a result recently. Oh, I read it off. They lost to Splat-A-Lot Gambit. Ooh, could that have been Splat-A-Lot Gambit beat a former Splat-A-Lot team that is now known as Wavebreak. I wonder if there's any kind of rivalry between that. You know, like the exiled son coming back and having to fight each other. Seemed like it was a close match. Went down to a game 9. Oh, first Popcast of the year. First Little Squid League of the year. It's good to be talking about tournaments again. It's good to be back, and it's good to be doing things, talking to you idiots in chat, and we're getting all the way through it. Oh, what are we going to talk about next week? Probably be recapping SAC, as we usually do. Now that SAC season's coming up, and then we'll start dealing with low-ink stuff going forward. Let's read Debbie. It's a safe one. If you'd like to be a part of the podcast in any way, feel free to reach out at my socials below. Twitter, Mr._Popgun. Discord, Popgun, #5882. YouTube at 25Popgun. Twitch at Popgun25. Anchor.fm/Popgun. Make sure you get vaccinated. Wear your mask when applicable. Don't do anything stupid between now and the next episode of the Pop Test, because I want you alive so that you continue to watch this and play in our tournaments. Actually, don't play in our tournaments. Stop signing up for our tournaments. Just watch them. That's a lot better.